All right. We shall get started. So, hello everyone. Welcome to SUSECon. My name is Stefano Torresi. I am an engineering manager at SUSE. I'm joined by Alberto Bravo, product owner at SUSE. We both work in the SAP Solutions department, research and development. And we're here to talk about Trento. So just to get a sense of the room, who here is already familiar with Trento as a project? Show hands. Okay, about half the room. Good. More than I expected, actually. So, brief introduction. We are going to have a packed full agenda of features that Alberto is going to show us. So we are going to go a little bit fast. And then we are going to briefly look at what's coming next in our roadmap for the project. So what is Trento? It's basically a web application. It was developed from scratch in-house at SUSE to answer one simple question. How do we make the life of an SAP administrator better, basically? And we try to simplify a bunch of operations that usually involve logging into a machine and performing old school system administrator tasks. And we try to provide a comprehensive view of the entire environment of SAP workloads, with in particular regard with HA scenarios. So let's start with just showing the features, and I will leave the word to Alberto here.
Okay, thank you, Stefano. Let's start. I'm gonna put this here. Let's start talking a little bit about the console itself. Okay, so the Trento console is modern, is clean, and is intuitive. But more importantly, it is designed. It is being designed. This is work in progress with the needs of an SAP administrator in mind. I'm going to show you. Actually, I'm going to be switching back and forth between the slides and a real environment I have here. This is a live instance of Trento. Okay, what we can see here is the home page of the console, or the dashboard, as we call it. And this is already a reflection of that approach. Here we have represented the different layers in the architecture of an SAP system. We have the application layer represented by the application instances, the database layer represented by the database, and the operating system represented by the hosts, and the high availability cluster when they exist at application or database layer. The goal of this screen is very simple. It's to allow the SAP admin to know at a glance what the overall health status of their SAP environment is. In this particular example, we only have 3 register systems, but imagine if you have, I don't know, 40, 50, 100, you could easily, for instance, if I just want to see what SAP systems have critical components, you just click here and it gets filtered out. So it allows you to go in an easy way to where the problem is. Another example of this approach is the SAP Systems Overview that we can see now on the screen, where the SAP administrator has a list of all the registered systems along with the corresponding databases and the tenants that they are connected to in that particular databases. If you click the entry, for example, of this system, this window is going to open up, and this is telling you already how many instances the system has at application layer and at database layer. By simply looking at the screen, I can tell that I have my ASES and my NQ replication server are clustered here. I have 2 application server instances, and then I have a cluster HANA database. Another important thing to take into account about Trento is that it is powered by event-driven technology, what allows the console to react in real time to changes happening in the backend. We will see exactly what that means when we do our first live demo. Trento provides automated discovery of HANA multi-tenant databases and the instances. SAP systems are the instances, and 3 high availability scenarios. ASES ERS, multi-seed, multi-node ASES ERS clusters, multi-node HANA scale-up clusters, and HANA scale-out clusters. The discovery of pacemaker clusters supports different fencing mechanisms, including diskless SVD, and is aware of maintenance situations in the cluster at cluster level at node level and even at a resource level. Let's now switch. I'm going to give you a demo of what automated discovery means. What it means is that the SAP admin doesn't have to provide Trento with any information about the SAP system in order to register the system in the console. All they have to do is to install the Trento agent, configure the Trento agent, and start it. Okay? And you need to do that in all the hosts that are part of that SAP system. Back to the home page, as we have seen, we have 3 systems here, and now this is a virtual machine that I have deployed in Azure, and where I have installed an S/4HANA system. This is a central system, meaning that all the components of this system are running on this host. As you can see here, the system ID is S46. We have a ASCS instance with number 45, an application server instance with number 46, and this is connected to a HANA database, to a tenant in a HANA database called S4 tenant. Okay, so imagine I want to register that with my Trento instance. What do we do? Well, as I said, the first thing that we have to do is to install the Trento agent. The Trento agent is, we will talk a little bit more about that later, is delivered as an RPM package. So you would install it like you would install any other RPM package, well, okay? I'm not gonna do it because the agent is already installed with zipper. Then, when you install the agent, a folder called Trento is created under /etc, and that is where we find the configuration file for the agent, which is an agent, a YAML file. It's called YAML agent.yaml. Here we have to maintain 3 parameters. Okay, the first one is the one that tells the agent how to contact the server. The second one is the API key. We will also talk a little bit more about the API key later, but this is every time that you install Trento, an API key is created to protect the communication from the agent to the server, and you need to tell the agent, provide the agent with that key in order to allow the communication. And the last parameter here is the one that tells the agent how to talk to the checks engine component of the server. Once I have that at this, the only thing left is to start the agent. So I'm gonna let me see how I can do this that you guys can see. Okay, let me remove all the. I'm gonna put it here. How do you start the Trento agent? Like any other system, this service, systemctl, start Trento agent. Before I click enter there, what's going to happen when I click enter? The Trento agent is going to be started, and it's going to start a discovery process. It's going to start discovery things. The first thing that it's going to discover, the host itself. After that, the database instance, the database, the SAP instances, and finally, the SAP system itself. You will see the Trento agent is going to be sending that information to the server. You will see that there will be some toasts popping up here in the corner, upper right corner, telling what is happening. And at the end of the process, when the Trento server has all the information, it's going to realize, okay, these are all the parts of one SAP system, and my SAP system is going to show up in the console without me doing anything. So I don't have to refresh the browser or anything. That's what I meant when I said before that the console was reactive. You don't need to refresh the browser for it to reflect what is happening behind. So let's go. It's telling us, instead of discover, restore, because I had already installed the server, but the process is the same. It's just discovering things in the host. Okay? And now the server has all the information. The system S46 has been discovered, and soon enough I should see it here. There you go. Okay? Now we have my system is here, and if I go to the SAP Systems Overview, which is here, I can expand this, and you will see that the information that they have here matches the one that we were seeing at operating system level. That is what automated discovery means, and you may say, well, that is a very easy, a nice example because it's just one host. What if my system has a highly distributed architecture? It works exactly the same. Instead of having to do it in one host, you have to do it maybe in 9 hosts. But in the end, that's all you have to do. And Trento puts all the information together and registers your SAP system. Before moving forward with the slide, let me also give you a quick walkthrough the cluster discovery. As I said, Trento is able to discover 3 high availability scenarios, and we have an example of each one of them here in this screen. This one here is an ASCS ERS cluster, where what we can see, the most important thing about an ASCS ERS cluster is to ensure that the ASCS and the ERS instances are running in different hosts. Here, in this section, I can even tell in which particular host each instance is running. It tells me the version of the MQ server. It tells me what kind of file system setup, if it is resource-based or a simple mount, etc. The discovery support multi-seed clusters. In this case, I am only managing one system. But if I have more systems managed here, I could scroll left and right here and see the information for the different systems. Back to the clusters overview. Well, the detailed view for a HANA scale-up cluster and a HANA scale-out cluster is the same. So let me jump straight to the HANA scale-out cluster. This is a HANA scale-out cluster here. As you can see, this one is using diskless SVD. And here you have a representation of the 2 sides of this cluster. The health state of both sides is okay. My primary database is running on this side. My secondary database is running here. I have information about the roles played by the name server and the index server services in each node of the cluster. And if I want to know or have more details about one particular node of the cluster, all I have to do is to come here, click on the corresponding details button, and it's going to give me a list of attributes of that particular node and also information about the different resources that are being managed in that particular node. As I said, the discovery of high availability cluster is aware of maintenance situation. As you can see now, right now, this cluster is not under maintenance. Also, all the nodes are online. What happens if I change one of those nodes to put one of those nodes in maintenance situation? Let me do it here. So I'm going to do actually this one, which is this node of this the primary side. I'm going to put, as soon as I'm also minimize because I want you to see how the console reacts automatically. Remember, the Trento agent keeps running in the background, discovering things. And you see, as soon as it detects that that node is under maintenance, it's telling me here that this particular node is under maintenance. Now, if you go back to the details view, you will see that all the resources managed by this particular node, now they are not managed because they are also under maintenance. Okay. Before continuing with that, let me undo this change because then later, if not, I forget. Okay. Okay, back to the slides. Yeah. Too close. Okay, thank you, Stefano. Trento is able to validate the configuration of HANA Scale-Up Performance Optimized and ASCS ERS clusters running on AWS, GCP, Azure, VMware, and on-premises bare metal platforms. Trento cross-checks the configuration of your cluster against SUSE best practices or recommendations from the different vendors. And when it found something that deviates from those best practices, the corresponding check fails and returns a warning, or it returns critical. Whether it is one or the other, it depends on how important that particular piece of configuration is for the cluster itself, of how big the deviation from those recommendations is in that particular case. Also, something important to take into account is that Trento is aware of the platform underneath the cluster. So if you are running, for example, your cluster on AWS, you are not going to see, let's say, checks for the Azure fencing agent. So Trento is able to separate those things. The Trento checks results view provides deep insights about a check execution. Actually, this is something also I would like to show you on my real environment here. Let's go back to the dashboard for a minute. Okay, I'm an SAP administrator. I'm looking at my dashboard, and I see that the database cluster of this particular system seems to have a problem. I click here, and it takes me directly to the details view of that particular cluster, where I can see that in terms of runtime, everything seems to be okay. My HANA replication is okay. The health state of both sides is okay as well. I have my primary running on node 02, secondary, so everything is okay. However, here I have some checks that are failing. Let's have a look. For example, this one here, the corosync token timeout. This check is failing. If I click here, it's going to provide me information about that check execution in each host of the in each node of the cluster. And now if I click here again, it's going to take me to this detail view where I can see, okay, what was the value that was collected? We call those values facts, okay? What was the expected value and the result of that execution? In this case, it failed. It came back as critical. Some checks even provide a message in a human readable fashion to even make it more understandable to the user exactly what has happened. So again, in this case, it's a simple example. What happens is that this value was expected to be set at 30,000, but we have set it at 20,000. What do I do to fix it? Okay, if I go back to the checks result view and I click the what is my I lost the filter, sorry. If I click on the link of this particular check, you will get more information about this particular check, including references to the documentation from the different vendors and SUSE. And here you have a remediation section that provides step-by-step instructions on how to fix that particular problem. What do I have to do in this case? Well, I need to edit the corosync configuration file, which is located under /etc/corosync, set the token parameter to the right value, and then run the CRM corosync reload command. And that I have to do in all nodes of the cluster. Okay, well, let's do it. Here I have my two nodes of this cluster. I'm already in the corosync folder, so let's just edit the corosync configuration file. That is the token parameter. It is set to 20,000. I'm going to change it, save my changes, and the same in the other node. Okay, and now I had to run the CRM corosync reload command. Okay, and now what do I do? Well, back to the console, I have two options. I can wait for Trento to run automatically another check execution, or if I had no patience, I just click on start execution, and now that particular check, as you can see, is not showing up here. Actually, if I set the filter now to passing, I should see this is the corosync time, this one here. Now it's coming back as passing. Yes, this is a very easy example as well. I didn't want to get distracted with a check that might require a more complex resolution, because for me the idea here was to show you the flow that you need to follow in order to use Trento if you want to fix a bad configuration in your cluster. Okay. Alert emails. The SAP administrator can enable alert emails in Trento to receive emails when there is a critical event in the backend. For example, when the heartbeat of an agent fails or the aggregated health of a component goes critical, they can receive an email telling them about that. This obviously helps them, helps increase the awareness of the SAP administrator about the status of their SAP environment, even when they are not working, they are not sitting in front of the console. Let me also show you, actually, I was going to do something more fancy, but I'm just going to keep it simple. Not here. In this instance of Trento, I have enabled email alerts, okay, against my own SUSE email account, okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make the health of one of the hosts go critical, and you see how I receive an email alert. Let me see. Go back to the host overview, pick up one this one, for example. This one, the health of this host is okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to simulate that the agent here dies, and we are going to get an email for that. So I have it here to stop the Trento agent. Okay. So, and remember, right now I don't have yet an email alert. Okay. I stop the agent. Now I'm walk away from the console. I'm doing other stuff, and as soon as Trento detects that the heartbeat of that particular agent has failed, I should receive an email alert. There you go. It's telling me that that host needs attention, and now I need to go and check out what's going on. No. Saptune Web Integration. Saptune is a solution that comes with the SUSE Linux Enterprise for SAP Applications that helps SAP admin ensure that the hosts in the SAP environment are properly configured to run the corresponding SAP workloads by applying whatever nodes SAP recommends that have to be applied for that particular host. The integration of Saptune into the web console gives visibility to the SAP administrator over the tool, even when they are not working at operating system level, which is very common. It depends a little bit on what kind of setup they have in each company, but sometimes SAP admins don't spend too much time at operating system level. The integration works for Saptune 3.1 and higher, and the tuning status returned by Saptune is integrated in the health of a given host, meaning that if the tuning status is not compliant, then that is gonna make the health of that particular host go critical. Let me show you, give you also a little bit of a walkthrough here. Something important to know is that the status of Saptune is only relevant when your host has an SAP workload. If your host, for example, this is the majority maker of the HANA scale-out cluster I showed you before. This one doesn't have an SAP workload, so it doesn't really matter in what the status Saptune is, that it has no impact on the health of the host. But when we have an SAP workload, then yes, of course, it impacts. Like for instance, if I go here, I can see that the tuning is not compliant. Actually, if you roll over the mouse of this icon, it's going to tell us what we need to do in order to get more information about what's going on. We need to run Saptune node verify at operating system level to see exactly what the problem is. You can go to the details view, where it's going to give you more information about the return from Saptune, the status of the different services, what solution is applied in this particular host, what nodes, etc. For anybody who's a little bit familiar with SAP nodes, having a solution that applies the nodes, and these are complicated nodes actually, very long with a lot of changes to the kernel and whatnot, so having a solution that automates that process for you is actually something very, very nice. And then another example, when Saptune is okay, like for example, I think this one here, when it's compliant, well, it's compliant, then it doesn't impact the health of that particular host. The integration of Saptune into the web console is reinforced, has been reinforced with the introduction of Saptune specific checks. And there are two types of Saptune checks. Some checks are host specific, and some checks are cluster specific. We can see them here. If I go to the checks catalog view, further down here I can see what Saptune checks I have. And those with this icon are host specific. They are executed against one particular host. This one is cluster specific, meaning it's executed against all the nodes of one particular cluster. The introduction of checks for Saptune is a first step in the process, in our intention to expand the checks catalog to other targets in the environment. In this particular case, to hosts, but we want also to extend the catalog to HANA databases and SAP systems. So yes, you should expect configuration checks for HANA, configuration checks for SAP in Trento sometime in the future. These changes have been possible due to a lot of work by the Trento team and changes in the checks development environment. For example, right now, the checks engine is able to understand checks that don't behave on a Boolean fashion. Before, it was either a check could either fail or pass. There was no intermediate value. Now, a check can understand, okay, if something happens, it's passing, something happens, it's critical, but there is a range in between for which is a warning. By the way, if you guys are interested in understanding how a check for Trento is written, I highly recommend that you guys attend the Trento deep dive, Trento project deep dive workshop that is happening tomorrow at 4:30 by the Trento team, where you will be able to actually to write your own check. Okay. No, I was already there. Integration with SUSE Manager. We in the Trento team believe that SAP customers can greatly benefit from Trento and SUSE Manager working together. Trento brings the intelligence of your SAP environment, and SUSE Manager provide operational capabilities to maintain your operating system up to date. That's why the integration with SUSE Manager has become critical for us. And we are working in a feature, we are developing a feature where the ultimate goal is to allow SAP administrators to orchestrate the patching of the operating system using Trento. And that includes, obviously, high availability clusters when they exist in the architecture. The current version of Trento provides a first iteration of this integration where that allows the SAP admin to know if there are any available patches or upgradable packages in any registered host. When any of those available patches is a security patch, we regard them as critical, and the health of the host also becomes critical. Let me actually show you how that works. Back to the host overview here. For example, if I go here, as you can see, I have these sections here about available software updates. Okay, that right now, well, it's not showing me, giving me any information. It's telling me that because SUSE Manager is not configured, and I have to go to settings to enable it. Okay, let's do that. Down here we have this section for SUSE Manager configuration. I'm gonna enter the required data here. Okay, I'm gonna copy the URL for Suma. I have to provide also a CA certificate, which is here. Then the user, and then the password. When I click on Save Settings, Trento is going to trigger another discovery process. It's going to connect to the SUSE Manager instance. It's going to look for that host, and if it finds it, it's going to see, okay, are there any available patches for this host or any upgradable packages? And if they are, it's going to bring that information into the console. So you see, I expect that most of the hosts, if not all of them, will have available patches, and surely critical ones, because this is an environment that I installed long ago. So all the health status of all those hosts is going to go critical. And so that's why we are going to see a lot of toasts popping up telling us the status of this host went critical. There you go. Thank you, Stefan. Okay. So now here, if I go back to the host I was showing you before, okay, you will see now that in this section I have information about those relevant patches and those upgradable packages. At this moment, the user would have to contact the SUSE Manager administrator, or if they have access to SUSE Manager, they would have to go there to see what those patches are. I can tell you now that obviously the next natural step is to have that information in the console itself, and that's what the team is already working on. And I can tell you the next version of Trento, when we get information like this, there will be a couple of links here that will take you to an overview where you will be able to see in the console, okay, what are these patches, etc. Okay. Trento integrates with Prometheus to collect metrics about CPU and memory utilization for each registered host. The metrics are collected locally by the node exporter. Prometheus pulls them from the registered host and then renders them in the host detail view, as you can see here. This is just a first step in the integration process. We want to bring more metrics into Trento, and not only just at host level, but we want to use the HANA, the HA cluster exporter to collect metrics for the cluster itself, the HANA exporter to collect metrics for the database, and the SAP exporter to collect metrics for SAP. Our goal is that Trento becomes a comprehensive monitoring solution, covering all the needs that an SAP admin might have in terms of monitoring at operating system level. Trento architecture is API-driven, and the two main components of the server, which are the web component and the checks engine, comes with a full set of version APIs that allow you essentially to pull any data that you can see in the to consume any data that you can see in the console, or to trigger any action available in the console. Obviously, the goal of this is to facilitate the integration of Trento into other possible management or monitoring tools that customers or partners might have. I've left here, in case you're interested, those are the URLs where you can check the full set of APIs available for both components. Well, security is paramount for SUSE, and obviously for the Trento team as well. No? That's why we have a rotating API key. Every time that we install Trento, an API key is generated, an API key that does not expire. And as we have seen before, you have to provide that key to the agent so that it can talk to the server. In order to further protect that communication even more, we allow the user to generate a new key at any given time, and even if they want to, they can set up an expiration time. Okay, so that helps. Provides a better protection against possible, somebody stealing the key, modifying the key, or any whatever other forms of compromise that we might have. Housekeeping. An SAP environment is a live thing. It's constantly changing. And changes not only means adding new stuff, it also means taking stuff away. An SAP system is decommissioned. I remove an SAP instance because I don't need it anymore. A lot of things can happen. So that's why we have to provide housekeeping capability to help the SAP admin maintain the console aligned with the backend. Okay. Trento offers housekeeping capabilities at two levels, at host level and at instance level. And it works in a similar way in both cases. When the heartbeat of an agent fails, Trento tells the user, hey, I don't see this host anymore. Do you want to clean it? When an instance that has been registered is not found anymore, Trento can't find it, the same thing. It tells the user, I cannot find this instance anymore. Do you want to remove it? It's important to understand that it's always up to the user. Trento doesn't take any action. It will always ask the user if they want to remove that particular component. And another important thing to take into account is that the removal, or we call it the registration of a component, takes into account possible dependencies with other components. Like, for example, if you remove the ASCS of a system, given that an ASCS is a mandatory component of an SAP system, not only that instance is going to go away, the entire system goes away. If you don't have an ASCS, you don't have a system. Okay? Let me show you quickly, because this is it won't take too long. For example, okay, actually, since I stopped the agent in that host before when I was doing the to show you the alert email, I already got here the cleanup button. Okay, I'm gonna clean it up, hit it. You see, this is what I mean. Trento asks you for confirmation. Are you sure you want to remove this host? So if I click clean up, it's gonna go away. Okay, and you can. So the host was the register, and the instance was the register, both things, because there was an instance running on that host, and that's what I was telling. That Trento is taking into account possible dependencies. Now, if I want to bring it back, in this case, again, all I have to do is to start the agent again, and it will come back. Okay. And I think now yes, this is my last slide. We're good on time, no? Yeah. Okay, availability. As you probably have already guessed by now, Trento has two main components, the server and the agent. Okay, what you may not know is that they are available through different channels. The Trento server, there are two ways to get the Trento server. One is as a set of containers from SUSE public registry that can be deployed on any certified Kubernetes distribution. And we also provide a Helm chart to facilitate the deployment of those container images. Another way to get the Trento server is through RPM packages in the repositories of the /for-SAP 15, SP3, and higher. The deployment using RPM packages is better suited for customers that don't have exposure to Kubernetes technology in their IT organization, or even if they might have it, but they rely on other parts of the IT organization to have access to a cluster. By the way, another recommendation, the same workshop I was talking about, the Trento project deep dive workshop, also if you attend it, you will have an opportunity to deploy Trento using RPM packages, okay? To understand what it takes. When you use RPM packages, you can do it two ways. You can do it manually, old-fashioned way, command step by step, or you can also automate the installation using an Ansible playbook. The other main component of Trento is the agent. We have already talked about that. The Trento agent is available as an RPM packages in /for-SAP 15, SP1, and higher. And now the 1 million question: how much does it cost to run Trento? And the good news is that if you have a valid subscription of /for-SAP 15, it comes at no additional cost for you. Okay? And now you say, okay, well, yes, I do have a subscription. I want to start playing with Trento. What can I do? Obviously, you have two choices in terms of installation. But what if what you want to do is to start playing? Let me understand what the application can do. How can I get my hands dirty? I would just like to play. Well, I'm going to show you. You can do that literally in 5 minutes. All you need is to deploy a small virtual machine or server and install K3s on it. K3s is a lightweight Kubernetes distribution by SUSE Rancher that can be installed with one command line. And actually, so that you believe me, I'm going to make a demonstration for you. Be aware that what I'm going to show you is not what you get in the end is not a production-ready version of Trento, okay? Because you don't have high availability, you don't have scalability. But if what your intention is to start playing with application, this is something that could get you there in less than 5 minutes. Okay. So here, I have this. This is a VM that I have also deployed on Azure. It's small. When I say small, this has 1 virtual CPU and 3 gigs of RAM. That's it. You don't need anything else. Okay? This is exposed to the internet. It has a public IP address that we can see here, actually. As you can see right now, there is nothing running on this host. And let's say I want to install Trento here. Okay. As promised, let me take you to the documentation side of Trento, where there is a section telling you how to install Trento on K3s. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy-paste the 4 commands that I have here. The first command, install K3s. Yes, this is a Kubernetes cluster, but again, it gets installed in one line, and you don't need to deal with it later on. So go here, install K3s. Just take a couple of seconds. It gets installed as a system D service. Okay. Okay. The next step is to install Helm. Okay. Because I'm going to use the Helm chart to deploy the container images. That's it. Helm install. Now I set the right environment variable, kubeconfig to the right value, and now the installation command, which is this one. Copy paste. I'm just even gonna leave the password like that. So that's gonna start the deployment of the container images in that little cluster that I have installed on this machine. You can monitor the process. There is also, it tells you here, the command that you need to run to monitor the deployment process. I'm not sure how familiar you are with Kubernetes, but here you have the different pods that are part of Trento. We need to wait until everything here says ready and running. And when that happens, there you go. We already have a Trento instance that we can start use again for playing. This is not a production-ready deployment of Trento, okay? Because everything is in one host, so not a good idea set up for an enterprise mission. So the only thing left is when this is finished, I can show you this we will get. So, but I don't know, Stefano, maybe you want to take it from here?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
We can show it. We can resume it.
Yeah, when this is
All right.
done, I will show you.
Okay. Can you switch it back?
Yeah.
Perfect. So let's continue. So we saw the demos. Good stuff. Thank you, Alberto. What's coming next? Real quick. So this is actually stuff that we are already working on, and it's actually already implemented in the code base. As Alberto mentioned before, we are working to further develop the integration with SUSE Manager to provide more in-depth security and update advisories for all the hosts being part of the SAP workload. We are also introducing a more comprehensive user management system. Up until this point, to simplify things, Trento has been a single user application for all intents and purposes with an admin. We're going to integrate it a little bit better, including, of course, multi-factor authentication, which is kind of a compliance requirement nowadays. This is a first-part integration implementation, but in the future we're going to add up also integration with existing identity provider like single sign-on like Okta or whatever. And this is mentioned here. So we have 4 main areas of future development. What's imminent, most notably, is the integration with the new generation of the SAP resource agents that we ship in / for SAP. They call Angie. We're going to be able to integrate Trento with that very soon. And then, yeah, further down the road, more comprehensive user management, the integration that I just mentioned. Also, we're going to improve the monitoring system. We're going to add more metrics, more comprehensive integration with third-party services. And very long term, as an objective, is actually to start using Trento to orchestrate operations in the SAP workload. So the comprehensive user management is actually a requirement for that, because we don't want, and we also need an event log, an auditing system, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, the eventual thing that we want to see as a killer feature for Trento is that with few operations from the web console, you can actually put the cluster on maintenance, orchestrate an update of the entire system with 0 downtime. And yeah, that's what we are getting on. If you want to know more, you can look up just the Trento keyword on documentation.suse.com to get started. If you already have as / for SAP distribution, there is the trentoproject.io website, which is the open source project, the code base itself, and for any inquiries, you can use this email, which me and Alberto basically will monitor. Yeah, and that leaves for a little bit of questions, like 5 minutes. Any question?
My simple question is, what is SAP talking about that solution? Are they a friend of this? Or will they say, oh, we have something more sophisticated? Will we go into the right direction when we implement this? Because SAP has maybe a different opinion about this.
We don't really know, I guess.
No, I don't have so... Well, for example, when I have had a chance to talk with SAP about Trento, I didn't get any critique on that regard. What I got actually was suggestions, like for this, obviously more on the HA side, which is for what SAP doesn't have, let's say, a monitoring solution. But for instance, in SAP, they are very interested in having a sort of HA tester feature in Trento, which means that, imagine when you deploy a cluster, that in the end, Trento takes you through all the required testing process before you put your cluster live, let's say. So no, I mean, they see this as complementary. We don't want, well, Solution Manager is going away anyhow, but we have no intention to compete with Solution Manager and other things because our focus is the operating system. Solution Manager gives you insights inside the application. I don't know if Trento will ever get there, but right now our focus is there. So they don't see it as something that we are trying to replace what they have. It's just complementary to what they have, especially on the HA side. Yeah. Anybody else?
You're providing Ansible automation. Why didn't you provide Salt? I had the same with HANA. You can install it headless, and I worked like 2 months to completely automate it using Salt. And 2 months later in Teget, I'm talking to a SUSE engineer who's telling me that he's doing the same. And I can, well, I'm using my solution now, but yeah.
Why Ansible not Salt?
Yeah. It's just
I can take that. So historically, SUSE has been very tied to Salt as a project. We want to do both, so they're not mutually exclusive. So we do currently have an automation using Salt. Sorry, can you repeat that?
You're planning to provide Salt state as well?
Not really. It's not in the most immediate plans. We just coded up the Ansible installation method for Trento because it was easy for us to do. Salt would take a little bit more effort, so we're not planning immediately to do that. But yeah, long term possibly. It depends if somebody asks for it, and we get more inquiries about Ansible than Salt, funnily enough, usually. So it really depends. The go-to way to install Trento is actually the Kubernetes distribution. We are adding the traditional way because not every user that has SAP workloads knows about Kubernetes, so they might not want to use it. And we'll see. We just introduced this new installation method, so we need to listen to you folks and see what you want, and then we will deliver. So yeah, we don't exclude anything in the future. The more installation methods, in fact, probably the better, as long as we can maintain some simplicity to it.
Any further questions?
Any backups needed?
Any backup?
Backups.
Of course.
Because you are using persistent storage without any...
Yes, absolutely. The answer, you have a Postgres database there, and obviously you need to back it up. Oh, the answer is yes. You have different choices. You could even use well, the way we, for example, in the installation, you get your own PostgreSQL deployed, but you could also use an existing database. But yes, absolutely, you need to follow proper maintenance.
Well, but like worst case scenario, just install it all over again, and we want ideally we want that process to be so easy that it doesn't cost you much to recover your Trento installation. So yeah, it's like we realize that Trento connects to mission critical system, but it by itself is not mission critical. So if it goes down, the worst that can happen is that you don't know what you didn't know before.
Any more questions? No? Yeah?
Just maybe we can talk without
Okay.
well, let's try it.
It's just because no, and it's recorded. Otherwise, they
It's
won't be
about-
able to
we're
hear
recording.
your question.
Okay, just because of the well, update recommendations or patch notifications that you're presenting, we are using like frozen channels. So I would assume that it just mirrors the state of the channel that's...
Yes.
Okay.
Right now, yes.
All right.
Yeah, whatever SUSE manager tells you, we tell the same because we integrate one-to-one with their API. So yeah, it depends on that.
This is the instance I was installing. Okay, now it's ready and I can use it. So remember, it takes just a few minutes. It takes you more to deploy the VM than to install Trento. Okay. Well, if that's all, then thank you very much for attending. Enjoy
Thank you.
the rest of the stay in SUSE.